The story begins with a confrontation at school. A chubby boy named Teddy bullies Maddie and snatches her hat. When she asks for it back, he just laughs, taunts her, and even shoves her to the ground.
Give it back.
You scared?
Give it back.
You want it? Come get it. Cry.
That is when Maddie finally snaps. She kicks Teddy hard enough to make him cry out in pain. Later that afternoon, Maddie's father, Phil Broker, comes to the school and finds Teddy's mother, Cassie Klum, furious because her son got hurt.
Hey, what, huh? Hey, what, you want to say something? You want to say something to me?
I would just let them leave the building.
In the parking lot, Cassie and her husband, Jimmy, aggressively confront Phil. Teddy watches everything from inside the car.
You owe my son a goddamn apology.
Take it easy. Like the officer said, okay?
Jimmy.
Phil tries to stay calm and avoid a fight, but Jimmy keeps pushing, convinced he is just dealing with an ordinary guy. When Jimmy starts mocking Maddie, Phil's patience runs out. With a single move, he drops Jimmy to the ground. Even the police, Sheriff Rodrigue, who witnessed it, seems surprised that Jimmy was humiliated so easily in front of his own son. What Jimmy and Cassie do not realize is that they have just picked a fight with one of the most dangerous former DEA agents alive. And this is home front.
Please hurry.
Trust me, I'm coming.
The story then flashes back. We are taken to a bar that secretly operates as a methamphetamine lab owned by a biker gang boss named Danny Turry. Alongside his son, Jojo Turry, Danny runs the biggest drug operation in town. His most trusted partner is a man named Dalton. But unknown to Danny and his gang, Dalton is actually undercover DEA agent Phil Broker. Acting on Phil's information, the police launch a raid. A violent shootout erupts between officers and Danny's men. In the chaos, Danny and Jojo try to escape by car, but Phil chases them down and stops their getaway.
Come on, Dalton. You want to play chicken, motherfucker? Let's do this.
He arrests Danny, but Jojo resists and is shot dead by the police. Watching his son die fills Danny with rage. He swears revenge on Phil for the betrayal that led to Jojo's death. Phil himself is shaken because during the undercover operation, he had grown close to Jojo. After the raid, Phil decides to leave the DEA and move to a quiet small town, hoping to start over with his daughter. 2 years later, we return to the present. Maddie, Phil's daughter, gets into that fight with Teddy, setting everything in motion again. The Klum family has no idea they are provoking someone with a past far more dangerous than they can imagine. Elsewhere, a group of teenagers are partying with drugs in an abandoned building when a man storms in and brutally beats one of them as a warning to stay out of his territory.
My name is Gator Bodine.
The man is Gator Bodine, a local drug manufacturer and Cassie's brother. Afterward, Gator meets with Cassie, who asks him to intimidate Phil in retaliation. Cassie, who is addicted to drugs herself, also demands more supply from her brother, pulling him further into the conflict that is about to explode. The next morning, Phil takes Maddie to school and runs into Susan. He asks for her help smoothing things over because he plans to invite all of Maddie's classmates to her birthday party in a few days. He wants everything to feel normal again. After that, Phil goes to Jimmy Klum's workplace and apologizes for what happened in the parking lot. Surprisingly, Jimmy accepts. For a moment, it seems like the tension is over and both men move on. But peace does not last long. While stopping at a gas station, Phil is suddenly approached by several of Gator's men. They attack him without warning.
Why don't we step around the side of the building?
Even so, Phil handles them easily, taking them down one by one. When Gator finds out his men failed, he becomes furious and decides to deal with Phil personally. Not long after, Sheriff Rodrigue warns Phil not to stir up trouble following the incident at the gas station. Later, while Phil and Maddie are out horseback riding, Gator breaks into their home. He slashes Phil's car tires, steals Maddie's stuffed bunny, and searches through the house. That is when he discovers Phil's old DEA personnel files. From those documents, Gator learns that Phil was the undercover agent responsible for Danny Turry's arrest, the same operation that led to Jojo Turry's death. Realizing the opportunity in front of him, Gator takes the file. Before leaving, he also kidnaps Maddie's black cat. That night, Maddie notices her bunny is missing. Soon she realizes her cat is gone too. She tells her father, frightened and confused. Phil reassures her and tells her to go to sleep while he searches outside. Not far from the house, he finds the severed head of the stuffed bunny nailed to a tree. The cat is nowhere to be found. Elsewhere, after reviewing Phil's old DEA files, Gator calls his girlfriend, Cheryl Mott, and asks her to come over. Together, they come up with a plan. Gator believes Danny Turry still holds a deep grudge against Phil for JoJo's death. He decides to trade Phil's location to Danny in exchange for help expanding his drug operation. The goal is simple: more territory, more product, more profit. He asks Cheryl to meet Danny's lawyer and deliver the information, along with the proposal for a business expansion. At first, Cheryl hesitates, knowing how dangerous this could be, but Gator eventually convinces her. The next day, Phil goes back to Jimmy and confronts him about the break-in. Jimmy insists he had nothing to do with stealing the bunny or taking the cat. Phil seems to believe him and leaves. He buys Maddie a new stuffed bunny and takes her to school. There, they run into Cassie and Teddy. As a gesture of goodwill, Maddie invites Teddy to her birthday party.
Want to come to my party this weekend?
I guess. Yeah.
Phil also attempts to make peace with Cassie, hoping to finally put the tension behind them. Meanwhile, after receiving the information from Cheryl, Danny's lawyer visits him in prison and tells him everything about Phil's new life. When Danny hears that Phil is living quietly in a small town with his daughter, his anger resurfaces. Consumed by revenge, Danny orders his lawyer to arrange for his men to hunt Phil down and kill him. When Phil gets back home, he continues fixing the staircase with Tito helping him. As they work, Tito shares his thoughts. He believes Jimmy Clum is too much of a coward to pull off something like the break-in. In his opinion, the real troublemaker is Gator, Cassie's brother. Tito even gives Phil Gator's address and mentions the rumors about him being a local drug manufacturer. He also hints at something more troubling, that Sheriff Rodriguez has connections with Gator, which might explain why Gator has never faced real consequences despite multiple arrests. A few days later, Maddie's birthday finally arrives. Her classmates, some teachers, and several parents gather to celebrate. For a while, everything feels normal, almost peaceful. At the same time, in another part of town, several bikers sent by Danny arrive at a bar looking for Cheryl. Their leader, a cold-blooded killer named Cyrus Hanks, pressures her for Phil's location. He makes it clear that he does not care about the deal Cheryl and Gator were hoping to make. That night, Gator visits Cassie and tells her that his problem with Phil has been handled. He warns his sister to stay away from Phil from now on. As he is about to leave, Cassie asks him for drugs. When Gator refuses, she becomes furious.
Take a fucking shower, eat a sandwich.
Take a fucking shower, Gator. Look at you.
Cassie, just pull yourself together. I'm sick of this shit.
Jimmy steps in and tells Gator to stop supplying her altogether. Meanwhile, Phil contacts an old colleague at the DEA and asks him to look into Gator's record. The report confirms that Gator has been arrested several times, but has never served any real time. More importantly, Cheryl's name comes up. She has a history of dealing drugs with Danny Turry and is likely still connected to him and his biker gang. The next morning, after confronting Gator and Cheryl while they are having breakfast at a diner, Phil heads to Gator's meth lab by the river. Inside, he finds the equipment and chemicals used to manufacture drugs, along with a large crate packed with product ready for distribution. Quietly, he sabotages some of the equipment, setting it up so that the entire place will explode the next time a light is switched on. Before leaving, Phil finds Maddie's black cat. As he tries to escape with it, Gator's men ambush him. Even with his hands tied and after being beaten repeatedly, Phil manages to overpower them and get out.
Bedtime story.
At the same time, Cyrus and his crew arrive at Gator's place with Cheryl. Gator is surprised to see how many men Cyrus has brought just to deal with one person. He chooses not to join the attack himself. Instead, Cyrus takes Cheryl along to guide them. That night, Tito comes by Phil's house to take care of the horses. Unaware of the danger approaching, he goes about his work while Cyrus, Cheryl, and the biker gang quietly move in by boat, slipping toward Phil's property under the cover of darkness. Tito realizes that Cyrus and his men have arrived, and he does everything he can to slow them down. With limited strength and no real backup, he tries to fight them off. But just as he attempts to warn Phil by honking the car horn, he is shot. The sound of the attack immediately puts Phil on alert. He rushes Maddie into the basement and tells her to call the police. Then he grabs his weapon and prepares to defend his home. A brutal shootout erupts. Terrified, Maddie runs out of the basement in the middle of the chaos. When Phil sees his daughter fleeing without protection, panic hits him. He chases after her. At the same time, Cheryl, waiting on the boat, calls Gator and updates him on what is happening. One of Cyrus's men takes aim at Maddie, but Phil reaches her just in time and kills the attacker. As Phil tries to get Maddie to safety, Cyrus shoots him. The two men engage in a vicious fight that ends with Phil killing Cyrus. Meanwhile, Maddie runs into the woods and crosses paths with Cheryl, who forces her onto the boat. Cheryl locks her below deck and speeds away just before Phil reaches the dock. When Phil returns to the house, the police have already arrived. He immediately reports that his daughter has been kidnapped and is relieved to discover that Tito is still alive. Out on the boat, Maddie manages to contact her father through the police radio. She describes the woman who took her and reveals their current location, Gator's meth lab. The moment Phil learns where she is, he heads there without hesitation. Back at Gator's place, he is stunned to hear that Phil has taken down Cyrus and his entire crew alone. He is also furious that Cheryl brought Maddie there.
You left him there.
I got the kid.
What?
I have the kid!
Risking his entire operation. As Cassie and Jimmy arrive at his house, Gator orders Cheryl to hide the girl. But during an argument between Gator and Cassie, Maddie screams, exposing her presence. Cassie rushes inside and flips on the lights, triggering the sabotage Phil said earlier. The lab explodes into flames. Realizing Maddie is trapped inside, Cassie finally turns against her brother and rescues the girl. But Gator refuses to let them go. He shoots his own sister and escapes with Maddie. Phil arrives just in time to chase him. Their pursuit ends violently on a bridge after a heavy crash. Police surround Gator from all sides. As Gator prepares to shoot Phil, Sheriff Rodriguez fires a warning shot to distract him. Phil seizes the moment and beats Gator down. He nearly kills him, but then he looks at Maddie and stops himself. For her sake, he chooses not to cross that line. The police arrest Gator and Cheryl. Cassie, wounded in the stomach, is rushed for medical treatment. In the final scene, Phil visits Danny Turry in prison. He tells him that he will be waiting for the day Danny gets out. So the moral of the story is never bully a quiet dad at school pickup, because he might be a retired DEA ninja who will ruin your entire family tree before dessert.